The afternoon sun slanted through the curtains, painting golden bars across the living room floor. The air smelled faintly of jasmine and detergent. I had just finished washing the bed sheets, a habit that gave me something to do in this large, echoing house. Since my husband, Ravi, passed away 8 years ago, silence had been my closest companion. My son, Arjun, was at work. His wife, Nisha, had gone upstairs to take a nap, or so she said. I often wondered about her. She was polite, dutiful, and outwardly caring, but there was something distant about her. She smiled when she had to, spoke only what was necessary, and her eyes never quite matched her words. I told myself it was just her way of being reserved. After all, not everyone could fill a home with warmth the way Ravi once did. I was folding towels when the sound of a phone shattered the stillness. It wasn't mine. The ringtone was cheerful, a soft melody that didn't belong to me or Arjun. It came from the coffee table where Nisha had left her phone, screen glowing like a small sun. Out of habit, I glanced toward it and froze. On the screen was a photo I knew as well as my own reflection. Ravi's face smiling, eyes crinkled with mischief, wearing the navy blue shirt I had gifted him on his 50th birthday. My heart thudded painfully against my ribs. For a moment I thought it was a trick of the light, but the name beneath it confirmed my disbelief. Ravi read. For a second, everything else blurred. The walls, the soft ticking of the clock, even the air, all dissolved into the past. I was back in that hospital corridor, the day they brought his body in after the accident. The smell of antiseptic, the weight of his cold hand, the echo of my own voice calling his name. It all came rushing back, mercilessly clear. The phone kept ringing, once, twice, 3 times. I stared at it as if it were something alive, something that shouldn't exist. Just then, footsteps hurried down the stairs. Nisha appeared, her hair disheveled, her eyes wide. The moment she saw me standing near the coffee table, her face drained of color. "Oh," she gasped, rushing forward. I'm so sorry, I left my phone." The ringing stopped as she grabbed it from the table and turned her back to me. I could still see her thumb move swiftly across the screen, decline call. Her hand trembled, though she tried to hide it by tucking the phone against her chest. "Who was that?" I asked quietly, still staring at the phone. My voice was calm, but something inside me was unraveling. She hesitated. "Just an old friend, wrong number I think. An old friend named Ravi." Her eyes flickered. For a heartbeat, she looked like a trapped bird, desperate to fly away. Then she forced a laugh, brittle and thin. "Oh, no, it's just someone from work. There are many people named Ravi." She hurried out of the room before I could respond. Her perfume, sandalwood and lilies, lingered behind, heavy and cloying. I stood there long after she'd gone, the silence pressing against my ears. Could it be coincidence? Perhaps a contact saved under a familiar name. But that photo, that was mine. I had taken it years ago at the picnic by the lake. I remembered Ravi teasing me about how I always cut his forehead off in photos. "You love my hair too much to let it fit in the frame," he'd laughed. That exact photo had been stored on my old laptop, not on anyone else's phone. How did Nisha have it? The rest of the evening passed in a blur. Arjun came home, exhausted from work, and I said nothing. I couldn't. Every time I looked at Nisha serving dinner, I saw Ravi's smiling face on that glowing screen. Every time she spoke softly to Arjun, calling him love, I heard the echo of that same word Ravi used to call me. Later, when everyone had gone to bed, I sat alone in the dark living room. The phone incident replayed in my mind like a loop I couldn't escape. My thoughts swung wildly between denial and dread. Maybe someone hacked her phone. Maybe it was a wrong number. Maybe, but deep down, in the quietest corner of my heart, I knew this wasn't random. There had been fear in Nisha's eyes, not confusion, not surprise, but fear. I went upstairs to my room and opened the small box where I kept Ravi's things. his watch, his wallet, the last photo we took together. My fingers traced his smiling face. "Why, Ravi," I whispered into the dark, "why does your name still haunt my house?" Outside, a cold wind rose, brushing against the windows like an answer I couldn't understand. I lay awake until dawn. The image of that phone screen burned into my mind. Ravi read. The man I had buried 8 years ago had somehow found his way back into my home, through the trembling hands of my daughter-in-law. And I knew with a certainty that made my skin crawl that something was terribly, unforgivably wrong. The next few days slipped by like whispers. Nothing was said about the phone call, but the silence in the house grew heavier, thick, stretched, uneasy. I pretended nothing had happened, but every glance at Nisha now carried suspicion. She moved through the house with deliberate calm, always polite, always smiling when Arjun was around. Yet when she thought I wasn't watching, her face hardened into something unreadable. One afternoon, I passed her room while carrying folded laundry. Her door was slightly open, and I heard her voice low, urgent. "I told you not to call me. It's risky." She saw the name on the screen, and my fingers froze on the fabric. "She's old," the voice on the phone replied faintly, distorted by distance. "She can't do anything." I stepped back, my heart pounding so loud I thought she would hear it. I walked away quietly, my thoughts spinning. Who was she talking to? Who was she? Me, clearly, and the name on the screen, Ravi. That night, I sat on the veranda, looking at the stars. The same stars I used to watch with Ravi when life was simpler. I tried to recall his voice, his warmth, his promises, but each memory now felt contaminated, like touching silk that hid thorns underneath. The next morning, when Nisha went out to buy groceries, I entered her room for the first time since she had married Arjun. Everything was neat, too neat. A faint scent of rose perfume lingered in the air. On her dressing table lay a jewelry box, a small photo frame of her and Arjun, and beside it, her phone charger. But what caught my attention was a locked drawer. Ravi's study had once had the same kind of lock. My hands trembled as I used a spare key from the drawer in the guest room, an old trick from years of keeping this house in order. Inside lay several papers, old photographs, and an envelope yellowed with time. The handwriting on it was painfully familiar. To my dearest Nisha. The room tilted around me. I sank into the chair, unfolding the letter with shaking hands. My dearest Nisha, if you're reading this, it means everything went as planned. I will leave tomorrow. You know where the money is hidden. We will be free soon. Once things settle, we'll start a new life, far from here, far from them. Yours always, Ravi. My breath caught in my throat. Every word was a blade. Ravi and Nisha, my husband and my daughter-in-law, connected long before Arjun ever brought her home. I read the letter again and again, hoping to find some misunderstanding. But the truth was there, black ink on yellowed paper, a secret affair that had bloomed under my own roof before his death, before she became part of my family. The betrayal was too vast to comprehend. My eyes stung with tears, but anger soon burned through the grief. If he had lived, he would have left me, and she had stayed behind, wearing her innocence like a mask. That night, I couldn't eat. My hands trembled as I served dinner, and Nisha noticed. "Ma, Jai, are you feeling all right?" she asked, her voice dripping with concern. I looked at her for a long moment, at that calm, practiced smile. "Yes, Nisha," I said softly, "I'm fine, just a little tired." Inside, my rage coiled like a snake waiting to strike. Days turned into weeks. I pretended to be the same old Mira, quiet, gentle, forgetful. But I began watching her closely. She would step out late at night, whispering on her phone in the balcony. Once, I caught her holding a small silver pendant, one I remembered giving to Ravi years ago. The pieces began to fall together, the hidden letter, the familiar photograph, the pendant, the late night calls. But I needed more than suspicion. I needed proof. So I went into Ravi's old study again, searching every corner I had once been too heartbroken to touch. Behind a false panel at the bottom of the drawer, I found a small black box. Inside it lay documents, bank records, insurance papers, and a passport. Ravi's passport, issued 2 weeks before his supposed death, and attached to it a photograph, Ravi and Nisha standing together, their hands intertwined, smiling like newlyweds. My stomach turned. They had planned to escape together. He had transferred large sums of money into her name, Nisha Patel, and not Nisha Kapoor. That name, her maiden name, was on every receipt. So this was their plan. They would disappear together, leaving me and Arjun behind. But fate had taken its own revenge. Ravi's accident had happened before they could leave. And after his death, she had stayed, married my son, lived under my roof, called me Maud, Jai. I sat in the dark study for hours, the letter crumpled in my hands. The clock ticked endlessly, mocking me. I felt old, foolish, betrayed, yet beneath the sorrow, a strange calm began to form. If she thought I would crumble, she was wrong. I had spent my life forgiving, enduring, and loving unconditionally. But now I had nothing left to lose. That night, I looked at my reflection in the mirror, the face of a woman everyone thought was gentle, harmless, broken. But in my eyes, I saw something new, resolve. The next morning, I greeted Nisha with a smile so serene it made her uneasy. "Good morning, Beta," I said softly, pouring her tea. "You must be tired. You've been making so many late night calls lately." Her hand froze midair, the cup clinking against the saucer. "WH, what do you mean?" I smiled wider. "Oh, nothing. I just notice things. This house has a way of remembering everything that happens inside it." For the first time, she couldn't meet my gaze. As she looked away, I knew she felt it, the shift in the air, the quiet before the storm, and I promised myself that whatever secrets she and Ravi had buried, I would unearth them all, no matter how deep, no matter how dark. For days, the house felt like a theater of ghosts, one playing wife, one playing mother, one playing fool. I moved silently through its corridors, carrying tea and smiles as though nothing had changed. But beneath my calm exterior, a storm gathered, swirling with rage, heartbreak, and something sharper, purpose. I began with small things. When Nisha left her phone unattended, I noted numbers, unknown ones. I didn't call them not yet, but I wrote each down one by one. I checked the old documents again, reading between the lines Ravi had once written in that familiar, elegant hand. His letters were full of promises. Once we're gone, everything will be ours, and always signed, "Yours forever, Ravi, forever." How casually he had used that word, to a woman who had entered my home pretending to be family. A week later, I called an old friend, Meena, who worked quietly at the local bank. I told her I was sorting through Ravi's estate, pretending the grief had finally pushed me into closure. Within a day, she called back, whispering through the receiver, "Miro, there were 2 accounts under Ravi's name, one joint, one hidden. Guess whose name it links to?" I already knew. "Nisha Patel." I said. Meena hesitated. "How did you know?" "Because betrayal always has a scent familiar, heavy, impossible to forget." That night, I couldn't stop thinking about Arjun. My son, kind and trusting, had loved Nisha with everything he had. He would never survive the truth if it came from me too harshly. I needed to make him see it himself. So I waited. When he returned from work the next evening, exhausted as always, I gently suggested, "Arjun Beta, your father left some old documents. Maybe you should look through them, see if there's anything useful." He smiled faintly, indulgent. "Ma, why are you still holding on to his things? You should move on." "Yes," I whispered. "Perhaps it's time." That night, while he slept, I left the letter I had found to my dearest Nisha on his desk, tucked inside an old file of Ravi's. By morning, the storm had begun. I heard the argument before I even stepped out of my room. "Nisha, what the hell is this?" Arjun's voice thundered through the walls. "You and my father, are you out of your mind?" Then her voice trembling. "Arjun, please, it's not what you think." I stood by the doorway unseen, watching my son's world crumble. Arjun threw the papers onto the floor, his face pale with disbelief. "You married me after that. You lied to me, Nisha. You lied to my mother. You lied to everyone." Tears streaked down her face. "I loved him, Arjun, before I met you, before anything happened. He was my world. After his death, I had nothing. Your mother pitied me, and you—" She stopped herself, realizing how cruel it sounded. I stepped forward then, my voice steady. "You used him," I said. "And then you used my son." She turned toward me, her eyes wild. "You don't understand. He promised me everything, but he died, and I stayed to collect what was left. I finished." "Yes, I understand perfectly." Arjun looked between us, heartbroken. "Ma, did you know?" I met his eyes, my voice barely above a whisper. "I found out only recently, but I wanted you to see her truth with your own eyes." He turned away, his shoulders shaking. "I can't live with her." I placed a hand on his arm. "You won't have to." Within days, Arjun filed for divorce. Nisha left the house quietly, her eyes hollow, her once beautiful face now a shadow of itself. But I wasn't done yet. There was still the matter of Ravi's hidden fortune money, built on lies and deceit. I couldn't let that poison touch my son's life. So, with Mina's help, I gathered every document, every transfer, every forged signature. I donated the entire sum to an orphanage under Ravi's name. The man who betrayed his family would now feed children who had none, a justice even death could not deny. Weeks turned into months. The house felt lighter, the air clearer. Arjun slowly began to heal, his laughter returning in fragments. I thought the ghosts were finally gone, until one evening, as I sat in the same chair where it had all begun, my phone rang. The ringtone was different this time, soft, almost nostalgic. When I looked at the screen, my blood turned cold. Ravi read for a moment. I couldn't move. My hands trembled as I answered the call. A man's voice came through, gentle, aged. "Mrs. Kapoor, I'm sorry to disturb you. My name is Sanjay. I used to work with Ravi years ago. I recently opened an old storage locker of his at the factory. There was a phone inside his phone. It had your number. I thought you might want it. I couldn't speak. My throat felt tight, my eyes wet. His phone, I whispered. Yes, he said softly. It still had one missed call from a woman named Nisha. I closed my eyes. The universe has a strange sense of irony. Thank you, I said finally. Please send it to me. That night, when the phone arrived, I sat on my bed, turning it over in my hands. It was old, scratched, the battery barely holding. I powered it on. The screen flickered to life, and there he was again. Ravi's face, smiling. There were no messages from Nisha, only one unsent draft huff. Finished. Mira, if you ever read this, please know I didn't mean for things to end this way. I stopped reading. Some truths no longer mattered. I placed the phone beside his photo on my bedside table. You both had your secrets, I murmured. And I had mine. I survived you. The wind outside howled softly through the night, carrying the last whispers of betrayal away from the house. The next morning, I made tea for the first time without bitterness. I sipped slowly, watching sunlight pour across the floor, and for the first time in years, I smiled. Not for Ravi, not for Nisha, not for revenge, but for peace. Sometimes justice doesn't come in thunder or blood. Sometimes it comes quietly, in the calm of a morning, when your ghosts finally let you breathe. And that was my sweetest revenge of all.